Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and make sure to hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new videos that I come out with, because on this channel we are here to learn together. So in today's video, I'm going to delve into one of the important questions that I have had people always coming up to me since I started this channel concerning at least moving to Canada to come and study. So let's delve into the top 10 questions I've received on this channel concerning study permits in Canada. The first one is, do I need a study permit to study in Canada? The short answer to this particular question is a very big yes. So if you are planning on coming to Canada to study and your choice of program is more than 6 months, then you are going to need a study permit. And one thing you have to also be aware of is the fact that the study permit is an official document that is issued by the Canadian government that allows you to study at a designated learning institution in Canada. This is different from the visa that you are issued when your study permit is approved, because the study permit is actually issued when you land in Canada at your first port of entry. So what they put in your passport is actually a visa that allows you to travel. The next question is, what is a designated learning institution or a DLI? If you are embarking on this Canadian journey and you are new to this journey, you might be hearing people saying things like designated learning institution or a DLI. In simple terms, a DLI is a school that has been approved by a provincial or territorial government to host international students. And for you to qualify for any PGWP, your choice of program should at least be a DLI. I will make sure to leave a link in the description area that at least you can use to check whatever school that you are applying to, just to make sure that it's a DLI, because they make sure to update lists with all schools that are DLI. Be cautious and don't go and apply to a school that's not DLI, because you might end up regretting it in the near future. The third question is, how do I apply for a study permit? This is a multi-step process and I'm going to break it down in simple terms. Every single step has a much more detailed process that you need to go through. First one is, you need to receive an acceptance letter, which you will get from your DLI when you accepted into that particular institution. And with the new changes that have been introduced, that acceptance letter might have to come with an attestation letter if you need it. Then after you've gotten this attestation letter and your acceptance letter, that is when you need to start gathering all the documents that you will need to apply. I will do a full video on how to apply for a study permit, which will be more detailed. So with the gathering of all the documents, you need to gather documents like your proof of funds, you need to have a valid passport, and any other documents that are required by the visa office in your home country. And with the documents, they are lenient enough to give you another section where you can now attach any documents that you think will make your case stronger for them to approve for you. Then after putting all these documents together, you are supposed to submit the application online. You are only allowed to submit a paper application if you meet the necessary requirements, else everybody is required to put through an online application. And now the Canadian government has two different portals that you can use to submit that particular application. They have the IRCC portal and then there is the GCK portal. They always advise that you go with the IRCC portal, even though it might be limited in the amount of documents that you can submit. Then after you've submitted the necessary application online, you need to submit your biometrics. So if you have not submitted biometrics to the Canadian government in the last 10 years, you are required to now go in and submit your biometrics before they can even start processing your application. And with the biometrics, they'll be taking your fingerprints and a picture of you to show who is actually submitting the application, so that they can put it on file and cross-check with other information to see if they need to do a background check on you. Then after the biometrics, there is a medical exam. You will be required to go through a medical examination if that is required, unless you already have a medical examination report that is still valid. Most times they advise that you wait for them to ask you to go and do your medicals, but some applicants who might be in a rush will do the medicals upfront so that they can submit it with their application. That way If they are approved, they will get the passport request, and would they have to now wait to go through a medical process again. Then after the medical exam, sometimes, and I'm stressing on this one here, sometimes they might call you in for an interview if they feel that there's a need to at least interview you about your application. But in most cases, most people, that interview is waived, and the visa officer will make a decision only based on the documents that you have submitted or other information that they might have available to them about your application. So in rare cases have I heard people being called in to be interviewed just to clarify some information about the application. The fourth question is, when should I apply for my study permit? With this one, it is important to apply for your study permit as soon as you receive your letter of acceptance, because processing times may vary, and you would want to have a buffer period between the time you are applying to the time you receive that particular passport request or approval, and the time that you need to start packing and preparing to go to school. And this buffer period will come in handy just in case there are delays. But generally, the IRCC advise that you apply between 3 to 4 months before your intended start date of school. Question number 5 will be, do I need to change my study permit if I am changing schools? My simple answer to this particular question will be, if you are changing schools before you travel to Canada, then you will need to reapply for a new study permit. But if you are already in Canada and you decide to change schools, then you will need to now notify the IRCC about your change of school so that they will know which school you are now attending. And with this one, you can even do it online if you change your DLI, so that at least they will know which school they can find you in now. So if you have plans of maybe changing school, if possible, the advice that most people will give you will be, wait until you've entered the country before you can change, because the moment you change school before you travel, you will now need to restart the whole application process again to get a new study permit for the new school. Question number 6 will be, how long will it take to process my study permit? With processing time of study permits, it always varies depending on the home country and the time of year that you are applying, because depending on your time of year, there might be a backlog of applications that the IRCC might be working on, and also your home country sometimes might affect the timeline that you might have. But on the average, it normally takes between a few weeks up to a few months. It can take between 2 weeks to up to about 12 weeks. But you can always check this one live on the IRCC portal to see the processing time just when you are applying, and that will give you an idea of how long it might take for your study permit to come out. I've heard situations where people apply and they get approval the following day. Others apply and sometimes it takes months before they even get approval. But on the website, you can see averagely how long it's taking for them to at least process study permits. The next question is, will I need a study permit if I plan to study in Canada for less than 6 months? The simple answer to this one will be no. For programs that are lasting less than 6 months, you do not need a study permit. However, you may need a visitor visa or an electronic travel authorization to enter Canada. So in most cases, if you already have that visa, then you can just enter the country and come and study without having to now reapply and go through the whole process again. Number 8 is a question that I have a lot of people asking even when they've landed in Canada, and that is, can I go back to my home country whilst I'm studying in Canada? With this one, the answer is a very big yes. You can travel back to your home country during breaks, vacations, or even holidays. You just have to make sure that your study permits and all your travel documents are still valid, so that in case you leave Canada, that you'll be allowed back into the country. And there's one thing about this one that you need to know. Even if your study permit is still valid, you need to make sure that you have a visa that allows you back into the country, because I've seen people make that mistake of still having a study permit valid, but actually their travel visa has actually expired. So when they travel back, they now have to go through challenges if when they are coming back, because that is what allows you to enter the country. The study permit just tells them what your status is in the country. Question 9 is, how long can you stay in Canada with a study permit? With this one, your study permit is usually valid for the length of your study program plus an extra 90 days to allow you to now go through the necessary processes if you need to leave the country or if you need to now extend your status. So these 90 days are given as a buffer so that if you now need to prepare to leave the country or you need to extend your status, you can go through the necessary processes. So typically your study permit will be valid for the length of your program. If it's 1 year, it will be 1 year plus the 90 days. If it's 2 years, it will be 2 years plus the 90 days. If it's 4 years, it will be 4 years plus the 90 days. So when you are issued a study permit, my advice is always check to make sure that you are getting all those time allowed on the study permit, because you are going to need them. Then we have question 10, which is, can you work whilst you are studying in Canada? This one can get a little tricky, but the simple answer is yes, you can. Generally, with a study permit, you will be allowed to work for up to 20 hours per week during school semesters and be able to work full-time during semester breaks. And with the new directives that's coming up, students might be allowed to work for up to 24 hours per week during school days, and they'll be allowed to work full-time during semester breaks. Even though we still have some people in Canada now who are allowed to work unlimited hours, that's full-time, whilst they are in school, because they fell into a different directive. When they landed in the country, students were allowed to work unlimited hours. Then I'll throw in a bonus question here, something that I've had a lot of people ask, especially when we interact in person, and that's to do with the fact that, will I be allowed to look for work in Canada after my graduation? The answer to this one will be yes. If you attended a DLI institution, you will now be allowed to work post-graduation. That's if you apply and your postgraduate work permit is actually approved. If you studied for a year, you will be issued a 1-year postgraduate work permit. If you studied for more than 2 years, you will be issued a 3-year postgraduate work permit, which will allow you to stay in Canada and continue working for the duration of that particular work permit. So yes, you will be allowed to work in Canada post your graduation if you meet the necessary requirements. So that will be it for today on the top questions that I've been getting about study permit. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below so that we can all interact and learn together. Don't forget to hit the like button, share and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you for watching. Until the next video, cheers.